Hi, so I was doing Catechism in a year and something stood out to me today, so I wanted to share. It says, this is paragraph 1128, the Sacraments of Salvation. This is this is the meaning of the Church's affirmation that the sacrament act ex opere operato, literally by the very fact of the action being performed. That is, by virtue of the saving work of Christ accomplished once for all. It follows that the sacrament is not wrought by the righteousness of either the celebrant or the recipient, but by the power of God. From the moment that from the moment that a sacrament is celebrated in accordance with the intention of the Church, the power of Christ and His Spirit act in and through it, independently of the personal holiness of the minister. Nevertheless, the fruits of the sacrament also depend on the disposition of the one who receives them. I know it's a lot of words. A big chunk there. But what stood out to me was this sentence right here. From the moment that a sacrament is celebrated in accordance with the intention of the Church and the power of Christ, and His Spirit in and through it, independently of the person. From the moment a sacrament is celebrated in accordance with the intention of the Church, the power of Christ and His Spirit acts in and through it, independently of the personal holiness of the minister. So it got me thinking about, I've always wondered why, at Mass, at some places, I don't know if it's all over the world, but at Mass, how people, if you sit in the center 2 rows or sections, likely you are to get the Father to give you communion. But if you sit on the edges, like on the side benches or the other sides, you get a minister who gives you communion. But I've always noticed, at least throughout the most recent years, that people prefer to have the Father give them communion instead of the minister. And I'm learning that, and I've always wondered why that is, because in my mind, like, if you know that you're receiving communion, that's the body of Christ. It doesn't matter how it's been given to you. If you know that that's the body of Christ, that's the body of Christ. But I've always wondered, and I've been, but it's written right here, independently of the personal holiness of the minister. It's not who gives you the sacrament, and it's not in their holiness or not holiness. The sacrament still acts as it is, that its orientation doesn't change, because by the power of Christ and His Spirit acts in it and through it. So just a great reminder, Let's see here. I wrote it in my notes. The sacrament is not based on the holiness of a person, but by the holiness or personal righteousness of the celebrant or the recipient. Even for us, by going and receiving communion, we don't change the orientation of the sacrament with, specifically right now as we talk about communion. But when you and I approach the sacraments, if we are not righteous or holy, the sacrament still happens, because it's based on the power of God. But the fruit of the sacrament depends on the disposition of the one who receives them. So it depends on what our disposition is as we are receiving, that the fruits will work. You know what I mean? The fruits of the sacrament depends on us and how we receive. If we go and we are not willing to receive what the sacrament that we're receiving, then we won't bear any fruits, or there won't be any fruits. But when we do receive openly and thankfully and graciously, then we will receive the fruits that God has intended for us. So that was like, sacraments are not only effective, but they act by virtue of Jesus Christ. They are not based on the righteousness or holiness of the minister. So just a reminder for the people, because I've always thought, why do people, I think people believe that there's a difference, or there's it's better to receive it from the Father. The fathers are like our fathers. They are leaders in the church. So I guess there's that, and maybe it's also out of those who've been attending mass for years, or people who are maybe more mature or more senior, that they are used to having, used to certain ways or anything like that. But anyways, just wanted to share that is what I learned, and I'm like, I probably should share this with other people so that they can know that yeah, it's not about who you receive the sacrament from. The sacrament is still efficacious, it's still holy, it doesn't change its orientation based on who is giving it to you, or rather even you, based on you and your it doesn't change even based on how you approach it, because it's still a sacrament by the power of God, and by the power of Jesus Christ. It still is, it doesn't change. But the only thing that can affect it being is our disposition, in the sense of the fruit of the sacrament depends on the disposition of who receives them, not really affecting the sacrament but the fruits of it. So just wanted to share. Bye.